Hey everybody, I don't know about you, but as you've watched out over the world, the war in Russia and Ukraine is not just isolated to Eastern Europe. It's spread all over the world, and you can see it in market instabilities. You can see it here. People who do not think that that war is affecting you, all you got to do is look at gas prices. You look at your food prices. You see the global change that has happened. But you know something that's also affected investments as well. And I've said all along, Legacy Precious Metals is your navigator. They're the ones that see you through to get to the next level. The good news about this is, even with market volatility, market instability, you've got options. And gold prices are rising as investors turn to gold. And gold presents a hedge against this inflation and that protects you against the weakening dollar, which we are seeing. Legacy Precious Metals is the only company I trust to deal with gold and silver and the other precious metals. You need this investment. You need this as part of your portfolio to keep you buffered from what we're seeing in the world, war and volatility in the market. This is where you need to be. Call Legacy Precious Metals today. Be proactive about this. Get on board with it. Call them at 866-528-1903, 866-528-1903, or you can download their free investor's guide at legacypminvestments.com. legacypminvestments.com, your navigator in a volatile world of investments.
Do you want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered, and this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't gonna be that fun.
Hey everybody, it is that time of year. It's getting exciting around election time. It's fall. Everything. Football's going on. Everything's going great. I am so excited to have you as part of the podcast. For this week, I mean, we're a week out. I mean, this is the final stretch of the elections. We're going to talk about that today. Over the next few days, the next few podcasts, I'm going to break down the Senate race. We're going to break down the governor's races. I'm just so excited I can't even talk now. The governor's races. We're going to talk about also, possibly some of what it means for the House to take back over and the realities there. And I want to talk about that a little bit as we get in. But also I want to talk about another topic is debates, and we're going to deal with that just a little bit in the next few podcasts. So I just want you to get prepared, have that, be ready for Election Day. And be ready for just what is coming up. So there's a lot of great stuff on the table, a lot of things that have been moving. We're starting to see what I believe is the in these final week the push to get voters out, turnout. I mean, turnout has been tremendously heavy in Georgia and Pennsylvania and other places. I mean, we're just seeing a lot. And it goes to this, the old reality of this, especially this discussion of Georgia and electoral suppression that Stacey Abrams championed and made millions off of, which her lawsuit was again thrown out just a couple of weeks ago. She's losing badly to Brian Kemp. She's even started cutting back her spending. Here, just a week out of the election, she's cutting back how much ad buy she's having. I guess she's wanting to save her money for something else. I don't know, but it's not going to be for the governor's mansion. That's for sure. The way it looks here in Georgia. But I do want to take some time to look at this, but I also wanted to remind you, the DougCollinsPodcast.com is where you can get all the information about our podcast, previous podcast, the newsletter, and also some exciting news about a trip that I'll be telling you about more over the coming days to Washington, D.C. next April with me and my wife. You don't want to miss this. We've got a very limited amount of seatings. You can go to the DougCollinsPodcast.com/DC. And it will take you to the page. We have some bonuses for those who sign up before the end of November. So you really want to get in and take advantage of these offers as we go. But before we get into anything else, let's get started on this discussion of electoral politics and especially how it's playing out let's just start with the Senate races. Arizona. We're going to start in Arizona because I think this is tied into the governor's race we're going to talk about in a little bit. With Mark Kelly, Blake Masters, Arizona has been one of the hot states over the last year and a half coming out of the 2020 election, very similar to Georgia, Nevada, and others, which are the in-play seats. Blake Masters came out of the primary. It's been an up and down roller coaster. To be very frank with you, there's been a hard discussion between the National Republican Senate campaign, Mitch McConnell's leadership PACs, and others that on whether to support Blake Masters in this race. And that's been back and forth. Peter Thiel, a big backer of Blake Masters, has kicked back in funding this race, and it shows. This race has tightened up a great deal. The debate between Masters and Kelly, I think, helped Masters solidify himself as a legitimate candidate in this race, and one that conservatives can get behind and all Republicans can get behind in Arizona. But we're not going to be, we're not going to fool each other here. And when we talk about Arizona, Kari Lake is the engine that's running the train in Arizona. Her campaign has been very aggressive. Her campaign has garnered a lot of attention. There are people who are just drawn to her personality, her willingness to speak. She has been, just an amazing campaigner out on the stump in Arizona, and it shows. How is it showing? It's lifting up the rest of the Republican candidates in this race. So Masters is going to have that headwind going in. Kelly, this is going to be we're going to talk about several states here over the next few minutes. I'm not going to make these long podcasts today. I want you to have this information, and I want you to get out and start working, especially if you're in any of the states we've talked about. Mark Kelly is experiencing what Raphael Warnock is in Georgia, Cortez Masto is in Nevada, and others, and that is just simply the Biden hangover. That's what we'll just call it. It's the Biden hangover. Nobody wants that. Biden is not rushing to these states to help because, frankly, he doesn't help. Even Kamala Harris, the vice president, is not a help in these states because people are looking at this. These are flip states. These are states that are very close, and the inflation, the economy, these are actually having dramatic effects as we see the turnout of these races. So I think Masters is feeling the pull of Kari Lake in her governor's campaign. He's benefiting as Mark Kelly is being hindered by the Joe Biden administration, basically the midterm, which we always hear the discussion of a midterm in which the White House typically loses seats in the Congress in the first midterm after an election. And we're seeing that in a bigger way. It's actually gaining steam. And that, of course, I believe is helping Masters here. The race, polling coming in these last week is just really showing this race at a dead heat. We're inside the margin of error. When adjusting these polls, looking at who's turning out, how these polls are being run, you just simply see that Masters has the momentum here. Immigration still a huge issue in Arizona, along with the economy. And this is frankly a place in which the Biden administration has absolutely no traction. They have absolutely nothing to offer here. They have completely opened the borders. They have completely, just made a mockery of what is our southern border. And folks like Arizona, New Mexico, there's some issues we'll talk about there. Texas, of course. These are real issues, real meat and potatoes issues that we're dealing with when it comes to these statewide races, especially governor, especially Senate, and you'll find it others, on down the line in Arizona as well. But let's just starting off in Arizona. I'm looking at Masters in a squeaker. I don't think this is going to be a blowout either way, but I think it's going to have possibly a little bit more room in it than people would have given it credit for just a few weeks ago. In fact, there was a lot of people at the end of August, 1st of September, taking this race and moving it from even the contested part because they just didn't see Masters being able to come back. To his credit, he has. This is one that, I'm hopeful will put in the Republican column. You put this one in the Republican column, followed by the next one we're going to talk about. That's the Laxalt Cortez Masto race in Nevada. These are two now pickup seats in the three pickups that the Republicans needed at least one of to make the majority in the United States Senate, giving us what I believe, and we'll talk about this more later in another podcast, is the House is going to be flipping, and what does that mean as we go forward. Having a Senate is vitally important, and let me just interject this in as we talk politics for a second. Having the Senate is extremely important when you're trying to bring an administration to account. the House is important. I served in the House. I believe I'm a man of the House. I believe that the House has, a great deal of power to investigate. It has the power of the purse. But the reality, when it comes to some of these issues that are being done by the Biden administration, when it comes to judges, when it comes to reconciliation, when it comes to these issues that, if they just stick together, even at a 50-50 with a vice president tie, they can make major changes to policy in our country. And we've already seen that. So you take away that ability in the Senate, and then things get a lot tougher for the Biden administration to put through. Because remember, they're not putting things through because they're bipartisan. They're putting things through because they have the reconciliation option available to them, which allows them to have a majority in the House, which they're going to lose. So they won't have that anymore. But even if a miracle was pulled off and the Democrats kept the House, they're not going to have the partnership in the Senate if they can find all 50 senators staying together, then they're not going to be able to they could push things through that they normally wouldn't get to push through. Without that 50-50 split, without the majority, it means that Republicans will control the agenda in the Senate, and that means that anything from Supreme Court justices to district court to circuit court, that train will stop, and you'll see a lot of that happen in the month of December. Because if Schumer loses majority, he'll do everything he possibly can to do as much damage as he can in December. Now, laying all that out, let's get back to the race in Nevada. Adam Laxalt has run a great race. Adam Laxalt has been out front in this race for a long time. Cortez Masto feeling the same problems and maybe in a little bit more precise way than Mark Kelly in Arizona, in that Nevada is so heavily dependent upon tourism and service industry. And so during the pandemic, the shutdowns, the Democrats' overreach when it comes to, everything from mask mandates to others, this has caused a real backlash against Democrats in Nevada. You're seeing this in the governor's race as well. Again, we're seeing a lot of, especially races that have governors and senator races, we're seeing these break toward Republicans in the end. This one is no different. Laxalt's been keeping a lead for about a month, a small lead. It's in the margin of errors. But when you look at projections, you look at how these numbers are breaking out, and you just get from what I've talked to people on the ground in Nevada, Laxalt is pulling ahead here. And this will give the Senate Republicans another vote. The good part about what we're looking at now, if Masters does pull off Arizona, Laxalt pulls off Nevada, the Republicans could conceivably lose one of the whole seats, and we'll talk about those in a minute, and still retain the majority. Because if they lost one of the whole seats, and those are in states like North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, if they lost one of those, then they would have to have two to make up the majority. This could give them that buffer on the unthinkable happening in somewhere like Pennsylvania or elsewhere. So, but we've got a lot of news left to go with them as well. This race has just been one of those just grinded out races in Nevada. Turnout's going to be key. Democrats have always had a great turnout mechanism, the old Reed machine that is spoke of in Nevada, but Laxalt and the Republicans have been fighting back on this. So that has been good to see. And, this is becoming more and more likely to be the best pickup opportunity for Republicans in this cycle. Let me touch on a few races before we get to some of the mainstreams that I just wanted to touch on. Connecticut Senate race. I just want to show you how much this headwind of Democrats is having to face. Dick Blumenthal has been in there for a long time. I mean, he's had every kind of faux pas, from lying about his military history to others. But Leora Levy, former ambassador, she is actually running a good race, and polls have actually tightened up a little bit in this race. And, do I expect Levy to pull this one out? No, but I will say her campaign team has done an excellent job in making this what we'll call spreading the field. And when you spread the field in these races, it means that Democrats are having to defend areas where they didn't really think that they were going to have to defend. And nobody would have expected Democrats to be spending money for Dick Blumenthal in Connecticut Senate race. And Leora Levy has pushed that. and again, that helps out when you're looking across the country how we keep seats that we need to keep. Now, I want to connect this one to the race in Washington State with Tiffany Smiley and Patty Murray. Tiffany Smiley has a great backstory that is just an amazing accomplishment to her as a wife and a mother, and what has happened to her husband, who is a veteran who is wounded. I mean, there's everything that has come about is she's put on a great race in a state that, again, you go back 6-8 months ago, nobody thought this race would get even, within single digits, and it's not only in single digits, it's tightening up, and the consensus is with some more money. Although we're in the last few days here, this could actually pull this race even closer. If you don't believe me, this is not just a conservative believing Republican candidates are doing better. $3 million has been put into what could be the if the Democrats were to happen to keep control of the Senate, the new Speaker of the Senate, where she'd be the longest majority held there, longevity wise. But they're going to put $3 million more into this race. Murray's campaign is asking for it. They're wanting to fend this off. Now, some of this could be simply that it's closer than they want it to be. They want to build a bigger margin, maybe to discourage Republicans in the future. Or it could be that frankly, and I've been up into Washington State in this cycle, and it is that there is again, what we're seeing from this oppressive Democratic governance over the past few years through the pandemic and through the recovery and others, that folks are just tired. And these two races I wanted to highlight sort of quickly here. I don't want to spend a ton of time on these races because I don't think I do believe the Democrats will win in these races, but I do believe that they're showing what is possible when you're expanding the field, number one, and number two, you're in a very much of a headwind that the Democrats are facing at this point. Another one is very interesting. I just want to point out to you because this one highlights a difference on the Republican side. Not sure it's going to make a difference in the actual election. This is the Joe O'Dea, Michael Bennett race in Connecticut. I mean, not Connecticut, Colorado. I've got Connecticut on my mind now. Colorado Senate race. And O'Dea, the interesting part here is that former President Trump has come out very strongly against the Republican O'Dea, while Ron DeSantis has actually endorsed O'Dea. So, again, you're seeing a little bit of a difference of opinion of those in governorships and also the former president. You don't normally see that in this race. This race has tightened up. If this would be one of those upsets that is just sort of off the map right now as we go. I think the interesting point to this race is the difference of opinion of some top Republicans around the country in putting support, and there's been others who have supported O'Dea as well, although the former president has not. Florida, this one's over. It's a matter of just hitting the final stages here. Marco Rubio will take out Val Demings in this seat and retain for the Republicans. Ohio, this has been trending in the last little bit after the debates with J.D. Vance, Tim Ryan, which were very spirited debates. I have to say, both sides making their points, both sides, using the debate formats, which I don't like debates. I don't think we have debates anymore. I think they're question and answer sessions with a chance to yell at your opponent or to gotcha your opponent. And that's just where we're at with these races. But Vance held his own. Tim Ryan's been running a very moderate campaign as opposed to the very liberal governance that he did in the United States House. Vance is pulling this one ahead in these final days. You're seeing, consistently him leading 2 to 4 points in the polls. I think this one will be a J.D. Vance win. In Ohio, given Ohio's move more toward Republicans in the last little bit. This race, again, is an important one because it is a hold seat. Republicans had to hold this seat. It looks like J.D. Vance will be the hold of Republicans in this seat. Brings us to another hold seat. This is Wisconsin. This one has gotten closer, although in the last few days, Ron Johnson's campaign has been outperforming Mandela Barnes in the polling. This one is tied very much to the governor's race, the Michaels Evers race. In this one, I see the Republicans moving ahead here. This is statewide has been a good state for Republicans. Going back a few cycles, it was flipped over this past cycle in 2018. when we had a lot of issues with conservative candidates up and down the ballot. So, again, Johnson always starts off slow, it appears like, in these campaigns. He seems to struggle in campaigning. Governance is great. Campaigning, not so much. Mandela Barnes is just very extreme, one of the more extreme senatorial candidates that you're going to see in this cycle. Johnson's making that point. Again, keeping this in the hold column for Republicans. North Carolina, was some concern about this one. This is the Ted Budd, Sherry Beasley race. Ted Budd, the Republican congressman who's running for Senate here. Trump endorsed looking at this race, was much tighter coming out of September. Now that Budd's campaign has kicked in, the headwinds Beasley is having to face as a Democrat in I would say a center-right state, although they have elected statewide Democrats here recently. Budd is pulling away in this, and it looks like this will continue to be a Republican hold for Ted Budd. As we move forward, one that was thought to be in play, and it could be. I mean, this one is an off-the-map kind of. This is the Don Bolduc, Maggie Hassan race up in New Hampshire. Still leans toward the Democrat Hassan in this. Bolduc has been putting on a valid and very valiant fight up there, although he has been hampered with money and fundraising and lack of attention from the National Senatorial Committee. They have put back in some more money here in the last bit, again, stretching the field similar to what we saw in Connecticut and other places. And again, on a break here in the next few days for Republicans, this could be a one we could wake up on the 9th of November and say, hey, we've got a new senator from New Hampshire, and Republicans take that seat. Again, this is a stretch race, but worth considering. This gets us into really the final two that I want to talk about. The first being Georgia. This is the Raphael Warnock, Herschel Walker race. Warnock, it's just been inside the margin of error now for weeks. Occasionally you'll see a Warnock poll that shows him up a couple. Then you'll see a Walker poll that shows him up a couple. A lot of them that show him within a tie. A lot of them show him within 1 or 2 points of each other. Again, the attacks on Walker have been incessant since he won the primary. He's had to overcome all of that, and still being in this race shows a great deal of fortitude on his campaign's part. His campaign folks have done a great job keeping Walker in this race. Walker has had to overcome yet again another allegation of another past affair that allegedly ended in an abortion. Walker has vehemently denied this. This is still playing out. I'm beginning to believe, though, that like others in Georgia, they're not able to get over. Neither Walker or Warnock are getting close to that 50%. They're getting closer, but they're not there yet. There's several who believe, both camps, both the Walker camp and I believe in the Warnock camp as well, who believe that the percentage of this one headed to a runoff is actually higher, that neither one of them are going to get to 50%, which means there'll be a December runoff in the state of Georgia. If that is true, this race may be, given a bad night in a couple of other states, say a Arizona or a Pennsylvania or a Wisconsin, this could come down to being the deciding vote in the Senate. The way the relations are breaking right now, I don't see this happening. I don't think this is going to be a deciding race for the majority in the United States Senate. I think it will be an addition for Republicans in this, and that being Walker. But these late attacks on abortion and the prior girlfriends that are coming out now and going and making their case and story told about Walker, it looks as if the Democrats are saving these for later in this race to either keep this race under the 50% to get it to a runoff so that they can try and use this more in what they believe will be an effective manner against Walker. But I think if this race goes to a runoff and Republicans already have control of the Senate, then there may be an even more stronger push for Republicans to get out and add to that majority by putting Walker back in. Again, this race was tied at one point to the governor's race. It is no longer. The governor's race we'll talk about in another podcast, as Kemp has solidified seemingly that race. Given the turnout models and others that are coming out right now in Georgia, which, by the way, are heavy. No thanks to folks like Stacey Abrams and even Warnock and others who claim Georgia was Jim Crow 2.0, the president himself. Biden saying this is and disparaging the state of Georgia is not coming true. We're seeing a great deal of voting in Georgia in this Walker-Warnock race. We could get, as they say in baseball, we could get some free baseball here in this one. There's a lot of people in Georgia praying that doesn't happen, but it could. So, again, just putting that on the radar as the race in Georgia, again, the third of the states of the main pickup states for Republicans. That brings us to one of the races that has been just on the top of the list for a while, and it highlighted by the other night a just absolutely horrific debate performance by John Fetterman. Fetterman and Oz. Fetterman has stayed up a little. This is a hold seat that Oz needs to hold. A few weeks ago, this was still a 4 or 5 point race. It's now basically gotten into the margin of error, and Oz closing and gaining in these projections quickly. It will be interesting to see what happens after these the people get a taste of what happened in this debate. Now, I will say 50% almost of the ballots have already been cast in Pennsylvania. So you're seeing very much of the, if they were going to be for Fetterman, they're going to be for Fetterman. If they're going to be for Oz, they were for Oz. Now the question will be, is there of the rest of the people who are still voting in Pennsylvania, will they hold out to a vote from Fetterman after seeing really how badly he performed in the debate, that his recovery from this stroke is not where the campaign wants you to believe it to be. And in fact, it was sort of sad, to be honest. If this is what the Democrats think they have to do, they could have, talked about this a long time ago. I have said, on the podcast, I've said on other interviews that I've done that I wish John Fetterman the best in getting better. I do not wish John Fetterman to be in the United States Senate trying to get better. We need people who are on that are conservative, number one, but also able to do the job from day one, and that's Dr. Oz would be able to do the job. Whereas Fetterman, frankly, there's so many questions were left open the other night in the fact that could he simply do the job? You're not going to have, closed captioning everywhere you go. You're going to have to start, having to be able to process that. Is that something that, in years to come he can get better with? Sure. But right now it's not. This is an important seat. It is still very much up in the air, and it's mainly an important seat because this would be a Republican hold. We do not, for conservatives, do not need to lose this seat, because if they do, then they have to win two others to make sure that the Republicans gain control of the United States Senate. Now, we've looked at that, saying Arizona and Nevada and probably Georgia are pickup seats that look like the Republicans can and will take. But you never want to leave that margin as close as it can be. But always good to have a couple of seat margin as you go forward. So, look, I'm going to talk a little bit more about debates as we go. But this Fetterman performance the other night was awful. And if you don't believe it, just listen. All you have to do is over the past week, you can listen to what has been said by the liberal media, from The View to others. And even Joe Scarborough come out and said, he's struggling, that this was a problem. So, again, it's just going to be determined how many of those people who had not cast votes in Pennsylvania look and see what happened in this debate, and then decide, if they're going to continue to support Dr. Oz or they're going to support John Fetterman. It's just, I have a hard time, frankly, seeing an independent who would agree that Fetterman is ready to take this step into the United States Senate. It just, I just struggle with it. I'm not, I think people with disabilities are wonderful folks who can overcome. He is so new into a new disability. This is not something that was that he's lived with for years. This happened in May before the primary. He's just learning how to, to get back his cognitive skills and ability and how to communicate. This is not someone who has lived with these, conditions all of their life, and they know how to overcome, and they have to make the adaptations and need be. This has nothing to do with a disabled candidate. This has everything to do with a candidate who had a serious stroke, whose campaign seemingly hid that from the press and others, and now they're pushing him out there because they have no other choice. And that is just a sad way to run a campaign. So there's the Senate. That's a rundown of the major Senate races. There's some others. Missouri, again, firmly in the Republican control there. Smith will win that one. with no problems. I think the rest of them will play out as they normally do. So, again, wanted to give you that quick update. That's the United States Senate. We'll now take a look at the governor's races in our next podcast. God bless you. We'll see you next time on the Doug Collins Podcast. Hey everybody, MyPillow. I just wanted to let you know MyPillow is having the biggest sheet sale of the year. You'll have to help. You have all helped build MyPillow into an amazing company that it is today. And now Mike Lindell, the inventor and CEO, wants to give back exclusively to his listeners. The Percale bed sheet is available in a variety of colors and sizes, and they're all on sale. For example, the queen size is regularly priced at $89.98, but it is now only $39.98 with our listener promo code. Order now because when they're gone, they're gone. You're not going to be able to get it. These Percale sheets are breathable. They have cool, crisp feel. They come with a 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee. Don't miss out on this incredible offer. There's a limited supply, so be sure to order now. Call 1-800-986-3994. Use the promo code Collins, COLLINS, or you can go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener square, and use the promo code Collins, COLLINS. Lisa and I sleep on these sheets every night. You will want to have them as well. They're a wonderful product. Go right now, either 800-986-3994, code word Collins, or go to mypillow.com. Also use the code word Collins to get this discount. You will not regret it.